our decimals looking at our tens place, right? Today, we are also going to look at our hundredths place. And you're thinking, we've already done hundredths place, but I'm not talking about when I write 124. I'm not talking about this hundredths place. I'm talking about when I put a decimal here and this is now my hundredths place. Okay? So, when we look at this number, like I always say, a good way to look at decimals, I saw a joke over the weekend, and then I was like, oh, I gotta tell my kids this. It said decimals were hard till they started putting dollar signs in front of it. It's a lot easier for us to know and understand it when we think of it as money, right? Because we know how money works, right? We don't always know how math works, but we know how money works. My sister, she'll tell you, my oldest sister, she's always like, I don't do math. She's like, I don't do it. I try. I do my best, but it doesn't come easily to me. My other sister, she gets it like that. I'm somewhere in between. But my oldest sister, she's like, math? No. But when I go shopping, I can do math. I can multiply. I can find tax. I can find this. I can do that. And it's when you put that dollar sign in front of it, she got it. Okay? My grandma was the same way. So, a lot of us are that way because we know how math works. We know how money works, So thinking of it as money, we're like, I know that because that's going to help me get the better deal, right? I go to the store almost every Monday night, and because my friend goes with me and we get our groceries for the week. And so, I'm always looking because they'll have multiple different options, right? You go to the store and there's tons of options. Well, I'll look and I'll say, okay, I can get this jar for $1.50, okay? And it's 8 ounces, but for only 20 cents more, I can get double the amount. I can get 16 ounces, right? So if I'm going to be paying, even if I say, okay, hold on, let me just write this down. So I have a jar, okay, little jar, 8 ounces. Let's say it's tomato soup, okay? And this is $1.50, okay? And then I look over and there's this big can and it's 16 ounces. And this one is $2.25, okay? So the better deal is going to be getting page 91, okay? Yes, Keegan? Hold on. It's fine. So this one is our better deal, right? Because for twice the amount, I'm only paying 75 cents more. Okay? You guys see that? But if I look over and they're like, oh, or you can get 10 ounces for 75 cents more, that's not as good of a deal, right? So that's why I can figure out math pretty quick when I'm shopping, right? So that's how we're going to look at our decimals today, is we're going to think of them as money like we always do. Okay? So you guys see a bunch of boxes and squares all over your page, right? Wow. So those boxes are like this. Your 100 square. Look up here, guys. This is your 100 square. Last warning, bub. So each big box is marking 100. Okay? Makes sense? So every row or column is a 10 block, right? Is tens. Okay? But every little square is a 100th. Okay? That's how we look at this. Okay? So you guys are thinking, how is this the hundredths place and this is the tens place, right? You guys are probably like, that doesn't make all that sense. But think of this. When you're dealing with money, okay? What number goes here? Is it pennies, nickels, or is it pennies? Is it tens? What is it? What goes here?
Pennies.
Pennies, right? How many pennies you have? So, pennies, how many pennies does it take to get $1? Everyone?
100.
100. So does that make sense as to why this is the hundredths place? No?
Yes.
Okay. How many pennies does it take to make $1?
100.
100. When you write a number or a money number, right? This is where your pennies go, right? How many pennies you have. So if I put a 4 here, that tells me I have 4 pennies, right? That means I have 4. I need 100, right? So I have 4 hundredths. This is my hundredths place. Does that make sense? Okay. And then this is how many dimes I have, right? How many rows of 10 I have. Makes sense? And this is wholes. Does that make sense? Bobbleheads? Okay. So, let's look at number 1. Okay? So, do we have a full column shaded in for number 1 on our book?
No.
No. How many squares do we have shaded in, Mary?
9.
No, look, we have a whole row and 2 of them are not shaded in. So what's 10 minus 2?
8.
8, right? So we have 8 squares shaded in. And we just said each square is one of these, right? And this is a 100th cube, right? So we have 8 out of how many?
10.
No, the whole thing,
100.
100, okay? So that is our fraction, 8 100ths. That is your fraction for number 1. That is your fraction for number 1. Okay? Now, when we do a decimal, we are doing the same thing. Keegan, page 91. We know we have a 0 point something, right? Because we don't have a whole square colored in. We only have part. Am I going to put 0.8? No, because that would tell me 80, right? I need to put 0.08. We are on number 1, Keegan. Okay? So remember, this is telling me like I have 8 pennies, right? Just imagine each square is $1. Okay? And we only have 8 of these filled up, so we only have 8 pennies, right? So we only have 8 cents. Does that make sense? Okay, now that was number 1. Now let's look at number 2. Okay, how many full rows of 10 do I have shaded? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Everyone get 7?
Yes.
And then how many little squares do we have colored in?
2.
2. So we have 72, okay? We have 7 rows of 10 and then 2 groups of 1, right? Over how many?
100.
100. How am I going to write this as a decimal? Lillian?
0.72.
Perfect. We have our 7 in our tens place and our 2 in our hundredths place. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, go ahead and look at number 3. How many solid rows do we have, Ben? 5. So can I just put 5 over 100? No, because how many is that really?
50.
50. Okay? So you can look at it multiple different ways. I have 5 groups of 10. Well, 5 times 10 is 50. Or you can do this. I have 5 rows and 0 ones. Right? Okay. How can I write this as a decimal? Charisma, how can I write this as a decimal?
0.50.
Good, 0.50, and sometimes they'll even just do it like this, 0.5. Do you see this? If you put 50, that's fine. But you'll see this a lot where it's just 0.5, saying that nothing comes after it. Okay? Does that make sense? Either one works. Okay, so for number 4, they're doing it a little different. They're giving you the square and the decimal, and you have to you have to color it in. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so for number 4, let me pause this real fast. So on your paper for number 4, you have something that looks similar to this, right? So they gave us the decimal of 0.9. Is that telling me I have 9 little squares filled in? No, that's telling me I have 9 groups of 10 filled in, right? So we need to go 1 group of 10, 2 groups of 10, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Did you notice I didn't, especially so you guys can see, I didn't fill them in properly, but you want to make sure you're not messy when you fill it in. You don't want any to go over here, so I know that you meant what you shaded, okay? Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so for number 5, they gave us the decimal 0.09. Now, that tells me I only have 9 little squares filled in. Okay? So I don't have a full row filled in. Does that make sense? Zoom this in a little bit so you guys can see at home. There you go. I only filled in 9, and this one is empty, and the rest of my square is empty as well. All right. So now if you look at number 6, it has 0.46. I want to see what you guys have to do. So I want you to try this one, and then we'll do it together, okay? All right, it looks like you guys are doing pretty well. So we have 0.46, so that's like 46 cents. So that's like saying I have 4 dimes, so I'm going to have 4 groups of 10. And then I have 6 pennies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? So it should look something like that. Any questions? Okay, so for 7, 8, and 9, what you are going to do is you are going to get to choose what you color. Okay? So you're going to choose what you color. Go ahead and color in those grids, what you want to color, and then you have to write the decimal. But I want us to look at something really quick so that I can end this for the people at home. Look at your math boxes because we will be doing stations today. Okay? For your math boxes, you are putting less than, greater than, or equal to between these two numbers. Some are standard numbers, some are written form, some are expanded form. Don't work ahead, guys. You are going to be doing, number 2 deals with word problems and fractions. Number 3, you are circling equivalent fractions. So, do me a favor. Draw a line after 3/4. Draw a vertical line after 3/4 on number 3. A vertical line after 3/4. A vertical line after 2/3. And a vertical line after 4/8. Okay? Vertical means up and down. Okay? Because you are finding the equivalent fractions to those numbers. So what fraction or fractions is equivalent to 3/4 in that row? What is equivalent to 2/3? And what is equivalent to 4/8? Okay? Then you are doing symmetry. All right? I do want you to do number 5. Okay? Then I want you to look at home links. Okay, look at home links. And go to 85. And you are going to be doing exactly what we did today, where they give you a shaded square, and you write the fraction and the decimal, and then they give you a blank square, but they give you the decimal, and you have to graph it, okay? Then for number 7, you are writing the numbers. 81, 27, and 45 are all multiples of 1, blank, and blank. So what other numbers can you multiply by each other and always get those numbers, okay? What? 85. And number 8, list the first 10 multiples of 6. Remember, that means 6 times 1 is what? 6 times 2, 6 times 3, and so on. All right?